We know what's next for Mick. You said we're moving on. We're moving on to Buried Alive the very next month after working with the world champion. Well, now he might be buried live on paper.
Alive.
Alive.
Oh my.
Oh my. October 1996. Foley gets another big win over The Undertaker again. But this time we add something else to the act that doesn't really wind up working out. But hey, maybe it was worth a try. We debuted Terry Gordy as the executioner. Was the original plan here to build like a little stable around Paul Bearer? I mean, I know that eventually it's going to become like Mankind and Vader, but would it have been, Mankind, the executioner, and others? What was the original idea, do you think?
The original idea was to have Paul Bearer have someone else in a stable, somebody that could go out and get beat.
I see.
And Terry Gordy was thought of. Terry Gordy was not the Terry Gordy of yesteryear. Terry had already suffered some complications. Whether I think he had a stroke at that point, but Terry wasn't himself. It wasn't the Terry Gordy of yesteryear, and that's what I think everybody wanted. But it's like, let's put a hood on him so that it's not Terry Gordy and that people aren't expecting a Terry Gordy match and that they're not expecting a Terry Gordy here. And unfortunately, it was a disappointment because Terry just did not have all his faculties about him. And hindsight being 2020, never should have done it. But he had gotten cleared and he was, quote, physically able to perform. But I don't think that he was, ever in a place that he was in a good place to perform. If you know what I mean. He just didn't he had lost that spark. And he had lost a lot of his intuition. He had lost a lot of his just instinct more than anything.
This sort of becomes an opportunity to maybe rebrand or reimagine or just develop this Undertaker character a little more. We know he's going to come back and ascend down from the top of Madison Square Gardens and look a little Batman-y at Survivor Series 1996. He's got the black
Oh no,
tears.
that was Pirate. That was Pirate Undertaker.
Okay. I mean, it looks like bat wings, but all right.
Yeah, it does. But when you look at his face, he kind of looks like a pirate.
Did you have that sort of, evolution in mind before you booked the Buried Alive match? Or was it a function of, well, he did die when we buried him, so he could come down and be someone else? Or was that all just a happy accident?
Well, we always tried to change his look up. I mean, he's the Undertaker, and we would change it up. We splash a color here, splash a color there, change something up in his gear, what have you, change his hair. He had the teardrop for a while, makeup on, makeup off. There was always an evolution of the Undertaker, and this was simply going to be the next evolution of the Undertaker. And that's what it was.
We know that Taker finally gets the win back over Mankind at Survivor Series in Madison Square Garden. At that point, did it feel like, hey, we've done this to death? This feud started in April. Here we are in November, because they're both kind of going to go their own separate ways from here. Was Undertaker tired of it? Were we just out of ideas, or was it just time to move on?
He'd seen a lot of it by this point. It's time to give it a little bit of a rest.
Let's just remind everybody, they wrestled at the June pay-per-view, and then they're going to wrestle again at the August pay-per-view, and then at the October pay-per-view, and now the November pay-per-view. So we've had 4 pay-per-view matchups with these folks in just 7 months. And on the other side of this Undertaker feud, Mankind's sort of just treading water for a little bit. Now, he does get to work with Terry Funk a lot at the Royal Rumble in San Antonio. I'm sure that was a blast for both guys. But he's really just thrown into a tag team with Vader. And Mankind's first WrestleMania moment isn't with The Undertaker. It's a tag match with Vader taking on Owen Hart and Davey Boy Smith. But it's sort of a heel versus heel tag team. And I know WrestleMania 3 and the whole card got shuffled up and changed up when Shawn tripped and lost his smile somewhere. But when you think about
WrestleMania 3.
13.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. I got lost for a minute.
WrestleMania 3 happened in
Hell, happened to WrestleMania 3.
So was there another idea before Sean lost his smile, darn it, and everything got turned upside down?
For Mick?
Well, it just feels like heel versus heel tag team. Well, that feels like, okay, we got to get these guys WrestleMania payday.
Hey, I mean, the answer to the question, yeah, a lot of shit got turned upside down. When Sean lost his smile, Sean didn't perform and as to what we had thought we were going to do. So, yeah, I mean, it kind of, the domino effect. It just, they start dropping. So you've got to change a lot of things and don't always have the time to do it properly. So sometimes a match is going to be ice cold and put them in there and just look at what you got. Go with star power.
Mick Foley told us that Jim Cornette offered him a match at WrestleMania against the wild man, Mark Mero, and Foley turned it down. Do you remember that? I mean, Mick was pretty honest in saying, you know, he came in for a much smaller contract, as did Austin, and they too had just left WCW, just like Mark Mero had over there. Of course, he was Johnny B. Bad. Johnny B. Bad came in on a better contract, and Mick maybe took that personally, but it wasn't Mark's fault. Like, that's not something you can hold against the guy. But still, he was able to be honest with us and say, I probably should have handled that a little better. But the idea of turning down a singles match at WrestleMania just seems crazy, right?
Yeah. But I think he had a better match with Owen and Davey Boy.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and the other thing, you know, I'm sure you didn't ask the follow-up question to Mick. Hey, Mick, how much did you make that year?
Right.
Now, how much your contract was for?
Yeah.
How much did you make that year, Mick? And I think if you were to compare it to Mark Mero, that I think Mick might have been on the better side of that.
Of course, we know coming out of WrestleMania, The Undertaker is the WWF champion. So that maybe was something we didn't plan for when we were first thinking about WrestleMania 13, but it's a good sign for Mankind considering their history. And who better to be The Undertaker's first challenger at the following pay-per-view, In Your House, Revenge of the Taker. It's Mankind and The Undertaker. Oh, no, it's not. That honor goes to Bret Hart and Steve Austin. The Taker still wins his match clean, and then he's going to light Paul Bear's face on fire.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Why are you laughing so hard? Why are you laughing so hard? Come on.
Nah, it took a fucking can of gasoline and a blowtorch and 40 barrels of oil to get that thing to light.
I mean, there were some fireball issues for sure.
Uh-huh.
Not an easy day at the office